All right, we're going to start graphing slope-intercept form today. But you got to know what the form looks like. A lot of you are going to be review for this. What is slope-intercept form? It's y equals
mx plus b.
Very good. Mx plus b. All right, so what does the m represent in the equation? Slope. You saw m earlier in our slope notes. Refers to slope. Okay, and what's slope? It's how the line changes. How points move from one to the next. Okay. So in the name slope-intercept, it's actually telling you what's visible in the equation. So if that's slope, what's the b have to be? The y-intercept. All right, so our y-intercept, what do we always know what's true about the y-intercept? What value, what coordinate? 0 for the x. Very good. We always know that y-intercept will always be a 0, comma, and some number there. That number will be in the equation. Whatever the b value is, whatever number's right here, that's what's going to be in our coordinate of the y-intercept. Call that 0b, 0b. All right, write some steps down to graph here. These steps are going to be true for all slope-intercept equations. Now, we didn't talk about how we know it's a slope-intercept. We'll go back up there in a second. But when we know it's slope-intercept, we're always going to plot the y-intercept first. So plot or begin with the b value, the y-intercept. And so that's going to be our 0, comma, b value. So we'll go to that on the y-axis. And then we're going to get to our next point by moving with the slope ratio. So we're going to move to the next point using slope ratio. And on a graph, what was that slope ratio referred to as? What over what? Rise over run. So again, we're going to plot the y-intercept and move with the slope. We're also going to learn later today that you don't have to have the y-intercept to graph a line. All you need is just one point and the slope. And then you can move to the next point. Now we are looking at slope-intercept equations, and we know we're going to find out that this form will always have the y by itself. So I want you to add that on the side there. The y will always be by itself. When we look at new forms later in a couple weeks, this is again the only form where the y is by itself. So you can know its slope-intercept by looking at the equation. All right, so let's go ahead and graph one of these kind of equations. Let me zoom in on the first graph here. So I'm going to call this example 1. And the equation we're going to graph is y equals 1/2 of x minus 5. Let's put some steps down here to kind of remind us how to graph. So the first thing we're going to do is plot a point. Again, we're in slope-intercept form, so we are given the y-intercept. This entire last value there is our y-intercept. So we're going to plot the y-intercept, which is at what coordinates? 0, -5. So go down to -5 on the y-axis and put a point right there. Next thing we have to do is move with the slope. So what is our slope? It's 1/2. Our slope is 1/2. So that means rise and run up 1 and right 2. Up 1 and right 2. Let's do that. Up 1 and right 2. So we went up 1 and we went to the right 2. Let's add more points for precision. So again, up 1 and right 2. up 1 and right 2. All right, now we definitely have enough points to make the line, so get your straight edge out. It's very important that you do not sketch or freehand these graphs. All of us have ID cards for a straight edge. So go ahead, get your ID card out or go grab a ruler to graph these lines. I will not give you credit if you freehand on a test. Okay, if it says sketch, then you can freehand it. Like on last night's homework, you could sketch those positive, negative slopes. But you have to graph straight lines with a ruler or your ID card. So let me put my line through these points. And adjust it if I need to. All right, and then once you have your line, make sure you have arrowheads at each end of the graph. All right, if I want to add more points to my line in the opposite direction, going to the left, you can do that using the inverse, not the inverse, the opposite of the slope. Okay, do the opposite of what you're doing. So if we have up 1 and right 2, you could do the opposite of up, and that's down 1. And instead of going to the right, you go to the left 2. Those are the same ratios. Those are exactly the same thing. So that will help us sometimes if we need to go back and add more points to the left of our y-intercept. So I'm going to do that right now. Down 1 and left 2 at a point right there. All right, let's go to the next graph, next example over here. So write down, I want you to try this on your own this time. Example 2, it'll be y equals negative 2/3 of x plus 4. Go ahead and graph that in those 2 steps. Plot the B and move with M. Again, let's go through the steps. We're going to identify the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is always the number there without the variable. So we know our y-intercept will be 0, 4. So we go ahead and plot that point at 0, 4. Okay. Next thing we have to do, remember, it's a negative slope. I saw a lot of mistakes out there. That's negative 2 over 3 means down 2 and right 3. So again, we're going to be here and go down 2 and right 3 to add a point. Now, if we go down 2 and 3 again, we'll have another point. The x-intercepts right there, down 2 and over 3. If you want to add more points on the left, you have to do the opposite of your slope. Okay, so instead of going down 2, go up 2. But to be negative, you have to go left 3. So when I go backwards here, I'm going to go up 2 and then left 3 for a point right there. Now you can always check your graph by understanding of a negative slope. Your line should be decreasing left to right. So when I graph this, we'll see our line decreasing left to right. Let me adjust it. There we go. All right, let's go to the bottom of the page and talk about 2 special kind of lines. 2 special kind of lines. So let me zoom out so we can see 2 graphs at once here. All right, so we're going to have example 3 here. I'm going to say the equation is just y equals 3. Example 4, the equation will be x equals negative 4. So what's different about these 2 equations versus the first 2? Yes. Yeah, it's missing one of the variables, right? This one's missing the x. Up here we had x and y in both of the equations. Over here we're missing y. So when we're missing a variable, it's going to be one of these special kind of lines. So example 3 is the one that kind of looks closer to slope intercept, where you have a y by itself. The other one doesn't even have y. So let's talk about this one first. If I would have put in x here, maybe it went away. Maybe I had 0x. If I rewrite this as y equals 0x plus 3, is that equivalent? Yeah, it's the same thing, but 0 times x goes away, would leave me the exact same equation, y equals 3. Okay? This can tell us the slope now. What's the slope of this line? Well, it's not nothing, it's 0. It's 0. 0. The number next to the x, which goes away, is 0. So it's going to be a slope of 0. What kind of line has a slope of 0? Horizontal lines. Horizontal lines. The horizontal line, have 0 slope. 0 change on top for your y. So let's go ahead and plot the y-intercept. What's the y-intercept here? It's 3. So we're going to go to where y equals 3 and put a dot. And the rise is 0. And the run is whatever you want it to be. So a slope of 0 is a horizontal line straight through that value of 3. Okay, another way to think about it is all y values, all y's must be 3. All y's must be 3. Doesn't matter what you put in for an x, you'll always get a y of 3 on this line. Do you remember the video with the function machine and the animals? Do you remember the one about spam? Right? It didn't matter what they put in, toxic waste, tires, whatever it was, it always came out as spam. Whatever you put in for x, it always comes out as a 3 for the y. Okay? That means this other one is a vertical line. A vertical line. A vertical line has a slope that is undefined. Remember, that's the worst curse word in math. Undefined slope. You can't walk on it. Okay, so a vertical line here through the x value of -4. So we're going to go through the x of -4 and a vertical line through that. I was taught another way to remember this is on these equations where it's missing a variable, the one that you see is the axes being cut. So if I say this again, the y is seen here. The y-axis gets cut at the y value of 3. Gets sliced right there at 3. I see only x. That means the number I see here, that's where I'm going to cut the x-axis in half at -4. Slice it right through -4. It will always, a horizontal line will always be y equals a number. The vertical line will always be x equals a number, and that's where it's crossing that axis, where it's being cut. All right, so we're looking now at not an equation, but just information. Two things, two important things, because this is all we need to graph a line. All we need is a point. Now notice, are any of these points a y-intercept? None of these are y-intercepts because x is not 0. Remember, it has to be x is 0. So we couldn't just write the equation with that information, okay? But we can graph it. We can graph it. So the first thing we're going to do is plot the point. All we need is any point. Okay, so we're going to plot that point and then move with our what? Slope. So we need a point and a slope. If we have those two things, we could graph a line. So let's do that. Our given point here in the first one is 3, 1. Not a y-intercept. Go 3, 1 is right there. Now move to the next point like we did on the last page. It doesn't have to be the y-intercept. So we can move now. Our slope is 2. So that means up 2 and to the right 1. Up 2 and to the right 1. Up 2 and the right 1 should be right there. Now, let's add some points in the other direction. So what's the or the other direction? Instead of up, go down 2 and left 1. Down 2 and left 1. Let's keep doing it. Add more points. Down 2, left 1. Down 2, left 1. All right, now we're there. Let's draw the line through all those points. Right there. And add our arrowheads. All right, I have a challenge question here. What's the equation of the line? So what's neat about this, when we graph it, we didn't have the equation, but now we can make an equation. We can make it now because we know slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. So if I go to make my equation here, y equals, my slope is m. We already have that, 2. 2 times x. And my y-intercept is not going to be plus 1. It's not this number up here. Don't use that. It's not the y-intercept. The y-intercept we saw when we graphed it is right there. So that value is -5. So that's going to be the -5 part of my equation. All right, let's go to the next one. Go ahead and try this one on your own here. Again, plot the given coordinates and then move with your slope. This is a -1/3. So that's going to tell you to go down 1 and to the right 3. All right, so again, we're going to start at -2, 5. -2, 5 is up here. Let me make that red, actually. And now we're going to move with the slope down 1 to the right 3. Down 1 to the right 3 should be right there. I'm going to keep adding more points to be more precise. Down 1 over 1, 2, and 3 right there. And I'll go ahead and make my line through those coordinates. Looks pretty good. And now, can we make the equation here? You got something? All right, so we saw this one we can't make the equation of because we can't see exactly what that y-intercept is. Can't see exactly where it's going through. So we can't tell the y-intercept. We can't make the equation yet. All right, let's go to our last 2 examples here at the bottom of the page. Very similar to the last 2 of our last page here. We're given a point and a slope, or our special kind of slopes here. Remember, when we see a slope of 0, what kind of line does it tell you to make? A horizontal line. Okay, a horizontal line that's going to go through the given coordinate there. All right, so we're going to draw a horizontal line through that coordinate. So plot the point first. 4, -2. 4, -2, I think is right there. And remember, the horizontal line is like the horizon. It's right this way, left to right, left to right. So we're going to draw a straight line. All lines are straight. Right through that coordinates. Can you tell me the equation of this line? Sure you can. It has a 0 slope, so 0x goes away. What's the y-intercept? -2. Y equals -2. That makes sense because all y values, doesn't matter what the x is, it's always outputting -2. Always output -2. So that means our undefined slope, remember that's our, what kind of line this one? Vertical. A vertical line. Going up and down through what points? 3, -2. 3, -2. So go to 3, -2. And draw a vertical line through that point. Going up and down through that point. I'm off a little bit, so let me go ahead and move it over. Oh, let me just undo it. What's the equation of that vertical line? Remember, they're always x equals a number. It's 3. It's 3. Now, you can see this in the answer up here, the coordinate. It's always the x value. Over here, we can see that right here, the y value. Okay? May the math be with you.